Hey yo, in every city, you'll hear stories of survival, loyalty, and betrayal. Some rise above the struggle, while others just become trapped in the cycle. You see, the streets make promises they never keep, because in the end, the streets is a myth.
My name is Dr. FLOYD JETER, born and raised in Jersey City. Margaret Hayes, anybody know Jersey City? Margaret Hayes was the hospital. Everybody was born there.
What was life like before the streets?
Wow. I take you back to Monmouth Street, Jersey City. We all lived in the building, 288 Monmouth Street to be exact. It was family. We had cousins live on, it was a four-floor tenement building. 8 families, 2 on each floor, and it was like family. And predominantly Puerto Ricans and black in the whole building. So on one floor we got rice and beans, and the other floor we got barbecue chicken or fried chicken and collard greens. So it was either roast con pollos or chicken and franks or whatever it is, but it was family, La Familia, and that was my environment. It was safe. It was what I knew. I ain't know nothing else. That's what I considered the good life.
What were some early signs that you might be on the wrong path?
Wow. My mother crying, disheartened by me being in the streets, selling drugs, you know. She never raised me to sell drugs. I was never that kid to do that. I grew up, I graduated high school when I was 17. So I was always on the right, went to school, you know, the ideal single parent household we had. I didn't think, you know, anything, but when I seen my mother cry, that was a real reality for me, saying, you may be doing something wrong, but it didn't register then, which now it does register.
Did anyone ever try to warn you or keep you out of the streets? And if so, why would you say that you didn't listen?
Yes, I believe I did have people who try to keep me out of the streets. I could name a few people. Growing up was one guy who was like a good dude, Lenny Gardner. He owned Morley's clothing store here in Jersey City. He always seen the good in me. He always like, you a good kid, you know, don't do this and don't do that. And he gave me my first discounted pair of Pumas. So he believed in me, and he's always been there. But also seeing my moms cry let me believe that maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And it goes to the other question you asked. Seeing her is what hurt me. That's what stopped me from doing the good things. Stopped me from actually, got me to just pause for a minute, and then I just went on, because the streets called me more than, the streets were louder than they were. The streets magnified the glamour, the running in the streets and the friends, and I ran for that. I was a kid, you know, and coming from the lack to knowing that you could get a couple dollars, you could get your sneakers, you didn't have to worry about this. I think that's what drove me more, and listen to them less.
What was your environment like? Who were you surrounded by?
The funny part is the building, we lived on Monmouth, then we moved to Montgomery Street, and the building was still the same setup. But we had gangs back then, but the gangs were not the gangs of today. We had the Latin Brigade, the Devils, you know, the Commanders. We had cool, and one guy who ran the gang lived in my building, but he had a pigeon coop behind me. So, you know, that was the environment, and they protected us. We didn't know that it was dangerous, because where we lived at, we were surrounded by the people who kind of ran the streets. So I never knew that. I never really understood that I was safe until I realized I was safe, and that was later on. I was like, wow, he protected us. So it was, even though he did wrong or he was in their life, he protected the environment in which I grew up in. So I never knew that I was unsafe, but also I didn't think that my family wasn't always black. I had Puerto Ricans. We were always family. I never knew the distinction until I got older and got out in the real world. And they was like, you're not this, you're not that. But there, the environment was conducive. Everybody was family, everybody watched out for each other. It was that village mentality. Now, you know, it's different. Things have changed.
What would you say was the moment that you realized you were in way too deep?
When the police raided my house, when they tapped, when the phones were tapped, you know, phone tap, where it was a big sting, and over 40 people got arrested, and I realized then that I was too deep, but selling drugs was like using drugs. You get addicted, and nobody really says that. They don't tell that side of the story. They're like, you know, using drugs is bad, but selling drugs is just as bad. You get the high, you get the rush, you get the limelight. You see the people are attracted to you. And I don't consider myself by no shape or form of the matter no big drug dealer. I just did stuff to get by or did stuff that I thought was cool. But then I had a family at an early age, so I had to do it. I didn't think schooling or doing anything else was an option. You know, my ceilings were low and expectations for people that looked like me was even lower. So I didn't think nothing of it. I just thought it was, you know, the passing of the guards or just what you're supposed to do. Go out there and get it, grind it out till you find it out. Hustle is in my blood, so that's how it is.
When did you realize that the streets was a myth?
When I was locked up and I was listening to stories of other guys who was making it, who I thought was making it, and they couldn't make bail. And I was like, you can't make a $500 bail, but you out here. You coming to me who I'm a low drug dealer. I'm not even nobody. I'm not known or anything. I'm just doing the same thing, but probably on a smaller scale than you are. And I realized this, that not just the streets are a myth. It's a myth that who was really getting money. And the funny or the irony of it is, you out here flossing and portraying, but when you got locked up, you calling my phone. Me, I'm like, yo, you got a collect call. Yo, my man telling you, yo, can you just ask my man, or can you ask Malik to come get me, this and that? Like, and then it was more so, Jersey City have different sections, downtown, midtown, the hill. I had cats coming from up on the hill to downtown, which we were downtown, asking for money, and they were supposed to be getting it. Like, the person I thought was getting it was asking me for a pack, which was, in those days, a pack was just something to get them put on. So I was like, wow, it ain't everything that it's cooked up to be. And maybe I was fed the wrong story.
How many friends and associates have you lost to either prison or death or strung out on drugs?
Let's say I lost family first to drugs, to the streets, where many, and when I say lost, it wasn't just like using drugs, it was murdered on the street, so that hurt. Friends, I lost quite a few to jail, but when I learned that a lot of them wasn't friends, so that was a reality check. So, you know, when I was in it, I'm thinking that they were riding with me, but as I got older, I got a mantra. If the friends around you don't change the friends around you. Because they wasn't thinking like me, they wasn't acting like me, they wasn't moving like me. And they were getting caught was snitching on somebody who wasn't in the vicinity. So I was really upset about learning that. And that goes along with the question you asked, is that a myth? The myth was like people wasn't who they say they were. Once you got them silver bracelets on, they telling on everybody. They telling on their mother. They wasn't really about that life. So I learned that early, that I really didn't have friends. I had family, I had some close, associates, but very, very few friends. And more so, the ones that I did lose, that hurts because those are the true friends that I did have.
How many people did you see who were big time gangsters or tough guys and they really just ended up broke?
I can't name names, but there's a lot of them that wound up broke. And there's a lot of them that pretend that they were all of that, and now you look at them, they missed the mark. Pretending, being fake, being phony, and flossing for the wrong reason. There's a lot of them out here, or a lot of them have come through Jersey City who may not be here no more, but yeah, they wound up broke. And I envied them because I thought that they were the man. And I thought me going to school and getting out of graduate school at 17 years old, I was corny, I was a nerd. And I was like, so I wanted to be like them. I wanted to see how they was moving, how they existed. But fast forward to 2025, they clowns. And this is a saying that a couple of the guys say, we don't go to the circus because we don't freak with clowns. Simple. So we change our environment by the way we think now.
I'm about to go, we doing better. If I ever lose, set it on faster than ever. If I ever lose, set it on, we doing better. Even though the goals are coming bigger, bolder, faster. I'm going to the maximum. I'm going to the maximum.
Have you ever been to prison? If so, what was it like?
Never to prison, but I have been to jail.
What was that like?
True story. First time I went to jail, my oldest brother was there. I never been to jail. I didn't know what jail was like. So, I go there. He there. I'm like, okay, because my brother was jailing, so he knew this. So he gives me an apple, an orange, and some cookies. So I'm like, oh, cool, you know what I'm saying? I'm all right, I'm hungry, but I'm like, this is all I got. He gives me that. And I ate it all at one time, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, I'm eating. So I go back to him later on and say, yo, you got any more? He say, oh, you ate that? I said, yeah. He say, you're not supposed to eat everything at one time, because this ain't jail, this ain't outside where you could go to the refrigerator. And I was like, what? I can't eat when I want, I can't have when I. So that little time was a reality, like, oh shit, things ain't the same. So I sat in the room. When I got there, county, it was little windows you can't see out. And I sat back and I was like, there gotta be something I did wrong. I'm doing backtrack. I'm going back to all the stuff like, what did I do wrong? Where did I fall? What step? And being the person I am, I probably overthink. I'm always thinking logical. That's always been me, but I used it for the wrong reason, not thinking how to do it for the right reason. So the story is that my brother gave me that, and I was like, okay, 2 days in, 3 days in, I gotta connect. Now I got money in the jail, and I got a carton of cigarettes. I don't smoke. I didn't smoke at the time. Cigarettes. I didn't smoke, and I had a case. A nice 12-pack of Lawn and Doom. So I'm like, I'm gonna make this work for me. And I learned that the system the hustle game don't stop because you go to jail. So I started selling cigarettes, what they call pure things. So after the 5th day in jail, I didn't have to leave my cell because they would bring me their cereal, everything. I learned to hustle within 5 days, and I knew that that's just who I am. I'm gonna always make it. I'm gonna always find a way. But the reality is, what can I really make of myself here because this is all it is. I can't really move. I can sell all the cigarettes in the world, but I don't have nothing tangible. I don't have a way to go out and floss with it. It was just me getting through. So that time I went to jail was the rude awakening, but I know I was born to be a hustler.
Can you share a scary or intense moment that you survived?
Yes. I was in New York, doing what you do in New York, in the buildings. I'm in the elevator. I was told, I'm lazy. I'm not walking up 14 flights of stairs in nobody projects or whatever. So I'm in the elevator, and guys jumped out of the elevator, out of the elevator, out the top of the elevator into the elevator, and robbed me. Left me with just my underwear on. I was like, where they do that at? I've never heard this like that. And they had guns. I was like, you know what? This ain't real. Like, where they do that? I'm from Jersey City. I mean, I know there's a lot. We got projects, but I have never experienced that. That was the first time I was like, yo, this shit is ridiculous. Who does that? Who sits in the elevator and wait for somebody? But I guess it's a hustle, and you can't knock the hustle.
What was the hardest part about leaving the streets behind?
The money. It used to be a lot of money in the streets. And like I alluded to earlier, selling drugs, being in the streets was just as addicting as using drugs. You wanted it. You wanted more of it. You wanted a name. You know what I'm saying? I was the corny kid from downtown with the green blazer, with the beige leather top, with the hammers, and you know what I'm saying, the gooseneck EQ with the 15s in the back. I'm thinking I made it. So, that was the life, you know what I'm saying? You got money in your pocket, you able to go out every weekend. But I had kids early, so as much as I was allowed to do that, going to jail took me away from that. And my family is the most important part of why I exist and why I do what I do to this day. So all of that development, all of that time, all of those scary places, and the hardest part for me with leaving the streets was the money. But that was the most rewarding part, was leaving the streets, because the money didn't really amount to be anything when it came to your life, either in jail or outside.
What steps did you take to turn things around?
I had a homegirl who hooked me up with Pepsi Cola in 1993. She was there, she was wild. She was there for a while, so she was like, listen, you doing all of this. You smart, why don't I get you a job? And she got me a job at Pepsi Cola. Out of all the places, I was the cashier. You put me from the street in the cashier booth where I see money coming in, like I was dropping $10,000 cash money and they picking it up. I was like, I'm trying to figure out how to get them hit before they get to the cashier booth, like where's their route at, where they located at. So all of those things so that was the turning point where I stopped seeing, what it was and worked as a cashier. And I remember it was like $13 an hour. And it's a 93, so you figure $13 an hour. And I was driving from Jersey City to Piscataway. I was losing more money than I was really making. But I think leaving the streets was scarier, but going into the real world was even scarier because you didn't have no guidance. You didn't have, everybody that you saw there didn't look like me, and they had ambition, they had motivation, they were privileged. They had maybe a two-family household, they had structure. So me, I'm like, I don't see a hustle. I see a lick. I'm seeing y'all got all this money on me. I could call my man and them, and they could catch you on South 13 or whatever, and just. But I'm glad I did what I did and learned and created a system where I began to just be me and leave those stereotypes that world of trying to be something that you really not meant to be. And I know the streets wasn't really for me, but I did what I had to do because I thought it was what I was supposed to do.
What would you tell your younger self?
Don't be an idiot. I wish I would have continued school. And like I said, I got out of high school when I was 17. And the story behind that, I hung out with the guys, and it was a bunch of us that grew up, and we would get out of school, they would go home and go to sleep, and we'd come back out and hang out on the block. I went home and did homework. And meanwhile, all the time, years going by, so when I graduated, they 18, 19, they still in high school, and I'm graduating. They're like, how you graduated? And I had to tell them, listen, I was going home and do my homework. They was like, we was going home and sleep. And that's when I knew I was different. And I would tell my younger self, stay the course. Don't get confused by the glitter and all the things that shine, because in reality, you could wind up dead, broke, or in jail. I was fortunate that I had a praying mother. I know for a fact, my mother's prayers, my auntie's prayers, family and friends, the prayers is what really got me through the BS that I was doing. So I would tell my younger self, pay attention, stay the course, don't get caught up.
What do you want the people to take away from your story?
That your beginnings don't dictate your endings. Where you start is not where you finish. I was told often that you will be dead or in jail. My life reads like a book right now if I look at it and take a snapshot. And when I say that is that I've been in corporate America for 18 years. A kid from the street going to Pepsi Cola and staying there and making a career. I've did 15 years at Pepsi, 3 years at Coke. I did 10 years in the public education teaching children with autism. I'm now a professor at NJCU for the last 10 years. I have a doctorate degree, I got 2 bachelors, a master's. I'm a certified alcohol and drug counselor. I sit on numerous boards. I sit on 5 boards at Hudson County Community College. I sit on 2 boards at NJCU, which is New Jersey City University. And I am the Chief Diversity Officer for the city of Jersey City. So what I'm saying is that your beginnings don't dictate your ending, but sometimes it's not, skin folk ain't always kinfolk, and those that look like you ain't gonna rally with you. So it was people like Lenny Grodner, Vidal Leader, Joyce and James Waterman. These people that have put stock in Jeter before I knew who I was, who seen something that I didn't see. So sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I want to say my friend Michelle Davis, she took a chance, and by her giving me a job at Pepsi she basically got me the job at Pepsi. That changed my life completely because it exposed me to an environment that I was not a part of. And the environment would change you before you change it. So I seen people buying houses, I seen people doing stuff. So I was like, oh shit, this is all right. So I bought my first house at 95. I was 26 years old, so I was like, okay. Because I seen other people doing it. Had I stayed in the environment in the street, I probably wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have had the mentality. I'm not no genius, but I ain't no dummy. So the takeaway is that where you start is not always where you finish. And if the friends around you don't change the friends around you. That is.
Streets is a man, right? Streets is a man. Streets is a man, right? Yo, boy, have you lived the life the streets tried to write for you, but ultimately found your own ending? Do you have a story of survival, betrayal, or redemption? We're looking for real people with real experiences to share their truth. If the streets tried to break you, but you made it out, we want to hear from you. Hit us up now to be a part of The Streets is a Myth.
On my birthday, looking like I hit the lotto. Free money, free my dogs out there, y'all know. God is great and the paper straight. If you ain't seen a real nigga, let me demonstrate. On my birthday, like I hit the lotto. Free money, free my dogs out there, y'all know. God is great and the paper straight. If you ain't seen a real nigga, let me demonstrate. Troy have the wave, all these niggas jaws. Biting style froze all across the board. Why I can't find friends like me, Lord? Genuine love, loyal